Hello, baseball fans. The Guardians are currently leading 4-3 in the seventh inning. Can we get a win? Can they rebound? We're going to get into how good the Royals broadcast team is. We're going to talk about this game itself, and we're going to talk about my theory on the Guardians' struggles on today's episode of Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Locked On Guardians. I'm your host, Jeff Ellis, as I have been for nearly 800 episodes now. Yes, that's right, 800 solo episodes. I consider it borderline Herculean feat. Technically, there's my co-host, Nacho the Cat here. If you do not know my work, before this, I started out as my first pieces ever over at Indians Prospect Insider were diamonds in single A. I can still remember writing about Grams. Was it like Connor Grams? I'm maybe confusing him, who was an Ohio kid who the Guardians got for Rafael Betancourt. It gives you an idea of how long ago. Alexander Perez. Some of those players, which is why it's ironic that now I'm so leery of players in A-ball. Or maybe it's exactly because of that experience writing those pieces. From there was the lead draft and prospect analyst at Scout, appearing on national and local radio. And then Scout got up at 24/7, and then 24/7 got rid of baseball. And then I got to join the wonderful world of Locked On. You might have heard me in Columbus on 97.1 The Fan on Sunday. That will be at least once a month. I'll be getting on there with Mark Howell. Good dude, fun talk. Look forward to those if you live in the Columbus area. So first off, let me just say I've been listening to this Royals broadcast, and they talk a lot about RBIs, a lot about batting average. It's, older gentlemen as well. I'm not sure exactly who the announce crew is, because I've just been enjoying listening. Because, yes, it's an older crew, but they've talked about how the Guardians are third in outs above average. They talk about specific how players fare against pitches. They talk about, improvements over the course. They've been talking a lot about the fact, the Guardians' pitching since the last time they faced him has gone from 10th to 5th, and bullpen ERA from 10 to 3rd. So it's still like a lot of ERA, batting average, RBIs, but then they sprinkle outs above average. They sprinkle, and then they give you great information. How is it I'm just learning now that Sam Hentges has the best ERA of any reliever in baseball in the second half, and it's thanks to the Royals broadcast? What is that? Or how about you're sitting there watching the game and Colin Snyder comes into pitch, quite effectively, if I might add, against the Guardians, and they mentioned that the scout that found him, after Snyder had been a really ineffective pitcher at Vanderbilt, and they talk about this, it takes a good scout to find him because he had an ERA over 7 at Vanderbilt, was Nick Hamilton. Nick Hamilton, who was a Guardians farmhand, the son of Tom Hamilton. Really some nice information overall that they are passing on in this broadcast. I'm definitely going to be watching theirs. It's been pretty fantastic. Like I said, it's showing you can mix the old and the new very well, and just kudos to the Royals team. There'll be those who are annoyed at me with that, but I think it stands out. Again, how am I now learning about the Hentges fact? So, let's switch gears. This game, listen, Josh Naylor had the home run. It's great. That's 2 games in a row where he's had some big hits, which is really great because he had really struggled since about mid-August on. But the defense, my goodness. Josh Naylor's out there making you wish for Owen Miller at first base. Directly responsible for 1 run, directly responsible for really annoying his teammate, Tristan McKenzie. I think we all saw the anger that occurred after the first miscue. Oof. But it's right now a 4-3 game. If there is no Naylor in this game, it's a 3-2 game. So, it's pretty even across. He took away, but he gave. Big surprise. Amed Rosario grounded into a double play in this one. Immediately, Steve Quadden hit. We're just going to leave him at the second hole. We're just going to leave him in the 2-hole. Continue to have him lead this team in double plays. Because he does. That's 16 on the year. He's 5 behind Vlad Guerrero for the league lead. And he's got a lot of opportunities with Quan hitting in front of him. So we'll have to see how it goes. But and here's the thing with Amed. I got into it a little bit on yesterday's show. He's down to like a 100 runs created plus. He's not even. He's barely holding on to league average with below average defense. And here's what I will say. I still don't have an issue with not trading him. When he was like in the 1-teens for runs created plus in July, 120s, when he was still up, even though, I kind of said this would happen, right? If you've been listening to the show, after his horrible start, he got super hot. I'm like, this is what happened a year ago. Mid-season, he gets really hot, and then he cools down again. It goes up, it goes down. At the end of the year, he's league average. And that looks like that's what's going to happen. But I understand holding on to him. One, because of what he means to the clubhouse. And then you kind of hope maybe you're wrong. I can understand a team being like, he's not that old. He's still a relatively young player. He was a top 10 prospect in all of baseball type. Like, he has that pedigree. He has the tools. Maybe he's finding another gear. Maybe the defense will be league average instead of below. Maybe the bat will be above league average instead of at. Unfortunately, he's regressed to what he is, which is, you can go and look at the Fangraphs numbers and see this is what he does. League average bat, below average defense, going to be worth somewhere between 2 to 2.5 wins. That's a solid player. But if you're the Guardians, you can't pay that. So, we'll see how it goes for him the rest of the year. I'm hoping he gets out of this. I'm hoping that it is not something we're going to see that runs created plus drop even more. But this is what happened a year ago. He ended up at a 99 a year ago instead of an even 100 because it went up and went down and went up. And this goes into my next point, which is everyone's like, oh, this team doesn't have any power, and that's fair. They are 29th in the majors in home runs. Only Detroit is worse. But home runs is not power, right? Like, you should look at something like slugging percentage instead just home runs. Now, it doesn't change a ton. It does put them 26th instead of 29th. And all the teams behind them are not world beaters. But it paints a picture. To me, though, what stands out is walk rate. And, I had a tweet earlier today that I stand by. If you go and you look at team ranks in terms of walk percentage, if I go click that right now, number 1 is the Yankees, number 2 is the Dodgers, 3 is the San Francisco Giants, so it kind of gets off there, 4 Seattle, 5 San Diego, 6 Milwaukee, 7 Arizona, surging team, by the way, 8 Houston, 9 Minnesota, 10 St. Louis, 11 Tampa. It's your top 11. Notice like 9 of those teams are right now honestly in the playoff hunt, whereas Cleveland, 27th. This team doesn't walk a lot. It is below Colorado, Miami, and Boston, and Cincinnati. They only beat Oakland, the Chicago White Sox, and the Detroit Tigers. And again, man, those Detroit Tigers just doing their best to be historically awful offensively. Like, one of the worst offensive teams in the history of baseball. And I keep harping on this because Cleveland didn't take advantage of their matchups against them this year. They did not take advantage of the matchups against a team that was that bad offensively. But to get back to it, like this, the fact that, listen, if they walked more, if it wasn't just contact, you would have some of these innings extend. But the problem is they have a lot of guys, and listen, the reason I have my concerns with Oscar Gonzalez are the same ones that I have had with Amed Rosario. There aren't many, at least, let's be honest, across all of baseball that have walk rates as low as those two and are successful year to year. This Kansas City game has Salvador Perez, but go and look at his numbers. We all think of Salvi as, consistently a top 5 catcher. He was amazing a year ago, but he has had multiple years in his career where he's had runs created plus under 80 or under 90. He has been incredibly up and down. The one player who's been consistently a force is Louis Robert, and that's 2 seasons of data. It's hard with that walk rate for those guys to be productive, and it's going to continue to be. This was my concern with Oscar Mercado as well, and Bobby Bradley, and a lot of these players that come up. The reason I was lower on Ty Freeman and Francisco Mejia, Owen Miller. When you have very low walk rates, did he just swing at that pitch? It sets. it sets you up to be less successful. And again, you don't have to be great at it. You don't have to be Jose Ramirez at 9.4%, or Stephen Kwan, who's also at that high, but you got to really try to be around 5. That's where Fran Mill was this year. And, Amed Rosario at a 4.2 for him, that's an improvement over recent years. But you can keep going down and just see the guys who aren't even anywhere near that. 6.3 for Owen. Jimenez at a 6.1 is a bit of a concern for me, but at the same time, I need to see above 5. Guys below 5, Oscar Gonzalez, Amed Rosario, Oscar Mercado. This is where I'm going to continue to not be sold that we have all of our oof. And there's the strikeout on one at his shoulders. Facing a lefty, no less, right? For Oscar Gonzalez, I mean, that's just... The slide is there. How are people feeling about him overall? Are you concerned like I am? Do you feel like, we'll say, I will say this, at the same point in time, for Salvi's up and down. I mean, I predicted back 2014 that the league would catch up to him, and it never quite did. He has been able to find success off and on throughout his career. Can Gonzalez sustain that? It's hard. It's going to be very hard for him to do. But I'll be curious to see how it goes. And for Rosario, I'm going to be curious to see what they do with him. Because we know it is a operation that does not have a lot of funds. He's probably in line to make about $8 million next year. I'm not saying they will designate him for assignment, but I wouldn't be surprised if he goes a lot cheaper in this offseason, especially if they feel like, notice Freeman's playing every day now, and he's not looking terrible. If they feel like Freeman can bridge the gap, then they might look for a cheaper alternative. We're going to take our first break, come back, and actually talk about the game itself. I know we talked a little bit about Josh Naylor's miscues and the announcing, but we're going to get into the positive performances, where we are, the box square bingo, and maybe the 3 stars by the time we get there on today's Locked On Guardians. I'm a little annoyed with Built Bar. Why do I not have a maple donut flavored yet? The new Cougar Tail, which is the official BYU Cougar Tail Puff, maple donut flavored. What's this, Built Bar? How do I not have a try of this? Granola is back. We've talked about granola is my favorite bar of all time. Strawberry is back. Some people, I'm not as big on the berry. That is just what I say. But, is this a point? I'm putting in an order tonight. I'm going to be honest with you. The granola triple box and the Cougar Tail maple donut. Do I need to say it again? I really like the granola, the cookie dough, the banana cream. I just finished my box of churro. It is a fantastic product. It gets an A in my health food app, and my belly gives it an A as well. It's just, I love Built Bar. I've been eating it for like 3 years now. It has never gotten old. It has never gotten to be something I do not enjoy having. I still, during the summer, I kind of sparse it out a little because I don't need that kind of easy, quick meal. So the birthday cake they sent me at the beginning of summer, I intentionally saved at the beginning of the school year, and that's been my go-to right now. I got done with the one that was like a peep and the churro, and those were kind of the last things I finished off at the end of summer. But man, I'm putting in an order tonight over at BuiltBar.com. You should put it in an order yourself. Remember that promo code LOCK15. It's the promo that I use, and it's good for you. It's great tasting. BuiltBar.com. Remember that promo code is LOCKed15 to save you some money. So just kind of some fun behind the scenes on the podcast. Yesterday, I didn't have to do a show. I decided to do a stream because the Guardians tied it up, and we went for an hour. Just talking to people, a lot of the Mariners fans, really nice people. What's funny is I did a now, our quick hit video, and then I realized there was no one to edit it. So I was just like, I already did it. I'm going to upload it. That has now become the #1 video in the history of this channel. And I went into the data and looked at it. It's because it's like 90% Mariners fans. Like Seattle and Seattle Mariners, for whatever reason, I hit that algorithm. And the Mariners fans drove the biggest video in the history of the channel. So come on, Guardians fans. If you want to not be second on this channel to Mariners fans in terms of #1 video, you got to get on it. Got to get on it. But I thought that was kind of funny. It was at 1,500 views at one point today. And, we last check 5 short of 600. So do consider subscribing. I appreciate everyone who does. But for a place with 600 subscribers to be at like 1,500 views was quite a fun day for me throughout the day to like check in and see. It's also interesting that when the Guardians struggle, everyone comes out of the woodwork to want to talk about like baseball gods and like anger with the name change. Can we just say that like the last time they won a World Series was the introduction of Wahoo? I believe they were both in 48. And then after that, Cleveland baseball became so, synonymous with losing and sadness, they made a movie about it. So if there's any instance of a baseball god showing disfavor, it was immediately after that invention. At the same time, because they were so bad for so long, if you were someone who loved that name and that team, Wahoo might have been the only positive you had during those awful years, because it's just what they had. So again, I understand it is a complex issue. I understand why for many people it is triggering, and I always find it a little bit funny that the people who get triggered by it also then like don't accept when others get triggered for the most part. And there's some great people who I find interactions with. Christopher, he knows that he doesn't agree, but we can be cordial about it and have our discussion. And this is my long way of saying that I didn't change the name, so like jumping into these comments to like hate on me and put up a negative mark because the name has changed, I don't understand. Now if you jump in after this one because I made some comments, at least then it's logical. So let's at least be logical about like digging me, because again, while I was for name change, I didn't do it. So maybe find someone else to jump out and randomly attack with your anger. But let's talk about this game. Currently 4-3 in the 8th. Nick Sandlin is in. Nick Sandlin, another one of those guys who went to AAA and got straightened out. He just looked completely lost in the early go. That's fair. I would have thought for sure that one would have been foul. Just like that, this game is tied. That is extremely frustrating. I mean, so you get the walk, the fly out, and then a double. And the walk comes back to kill Sandlin. And that's kind of his bugaboo. I mean, that's it. And we talk about hitting, that was fair, but we talk about how Salvador Perez, is that guy who swings at everything. And I mean, that was a bad pitch to swing at, but he was effective, and now we have a tie flipping game. And you just don't have any faith that the Guardians are going to be able to score with the way things have gone, especially the bottom of the lineup being the disaster show that it is. It's a frustrating time, and it's one of the things I wanted to talk about, and I just didn't have the time last week, is that this Royals team is not as bad as the Royals we faced earlier in this year, and a lot of people kind of going in thinking it'll be an easy sweep. What did the Royals do that was different? They promoted their young players, and those young players are playing well for the most part. This is a team full of young talent, and you give them credit for actually going through with their rebuild. You go through and you look at just runs created plus. Edward Olivares, who they got in that Trevor Rosenthal deal back in the day, he's got a 126 runs created plus. Vinny Pasquantino, who was, him and Will Benson were two of the top hitters in AAA. It's worked out for Pasquantino, has not worked out for Benson, at 123 runs created plus. Michael Massey, who's playing second base, a 116. Melendez, who just scored that run, a 105. Bobby Witt Jr., a 104. And he's been a bit of a disappointment because he's been he has looked, a lot of people actually projected him to be more of a third baseman long term. And then he played well in the minors, and people thought, but defensively, it hasn't been there for him. But he can just keep going down. A lot of their young guys have come in and played pretty well for them. Nick Prado, who's currently up, is a 100. He's been an even guy. I mean, there's quite a few guys. I know I rail on Amed Rosario, but man, even having a guy with a 100 runs created plus instead of having a guy in the 60s like Owen Miller, who's been the first baseman for Cleveland for a lot of games, you can just Salvador Perez, a 100, who is obviously not a younger guy, he's an older one, but they have a lot of players who have stepped into the void for them. They went young. They let their young guys play. I've been critical of this rebuild in Kansas City because they didn't want to embrace it fully. And they never got max value for guys, but man, Sandlin's about ready to walk someone else here, and that's what you have to know. Is that, like, some days he is going to get wild. I don't know if anyone's up, but he's been great since he's been back. But it's the same. It's the same thing with 99. I mean, these two. Oh, that was a terrible pitch, Nick Prado. That is just an awful pitch. You can't do anything with it. I mean, he really got him. I mean, that was ball 4. He's swaying out of his shoes. It's not pretty to watch if you are a fan of the Royals. That being said, I don't know if I can necessarily say the future is bright for Kansas City, because when I go through, a lot of their top prospects have now graduated. A lot of the guys we're kind of looking at as their higher end prospects are out. It's in some of those guys, like the Asa Lacy's of the world, have just struggled mightily since they were drafted. Like, I'm looking here, Fangraphs doesn't even have him in their top 10 prospects. Frank Mezquito from last year, the overdraft where they spread the money around, he's like sitting there at 8th in their system. Nick Lofton, the shortstop, Alex Marsh, those are very limited players. Nick Prado, it's kind of weird because they have Max Castillo ahead of Prado, but it's, there's not a lot of top 100 guys for a team that has been picking the top 10 since they won the World Series like every year. The Singers, the Kowars haven't come together for the pitching staff. Man, that is all 5 guys on the pitcher's mound arguing over a ball. What is going on? I don't think I've ever seen that many players in the infield. We're going to take our break and come back and actually dive into this game. It's end of 8. We'll see on today's Locked On Guardians. I'll be honest, I paused a bit. Well, A, to put in a Built Bar order, if I'm being honest, and B, to kind of see how things were going to go here in the 9th, so I didn't have any swearing in the podcast, because that is a no-no. I think it's interesting to pinch hit for Hedges with Palacios, because Palacios has struggled a bit, and I'm not sure he's a better hitter. I'm kind of curious what other people's thoughts are. Before we get into the game, because I keep putting it off because right now I'm annoyed at the game, Joseph Werner had a great tweet here at Jolt in Joey, that, Petey Halpin is someone that talked about a lot on the show. That 2020 draft was the year that 24/7 got rid of baseball. So I did not do my traditional top 100. That's when I started cutting it back to a top 50 because I wasn't being paid for a writing gig, if I'm being honest, at that point in time. And Halpin was one of my last cuts. This past year, after my top 50, I did like 11 names to watch who'd have been in that group. I love the pick, and he started out this year with a 215, 283, 283 in his first 55 games at high A. Since then, 318, 420, 518 over his next 46. And this is why I always say, I'm making a list. I'm checking it twice. I'm Prospect Santa Claus. Good on Straw. That's the second hit of the day, I believe. Because you got to pay attention for a whole year's worth of data. I talk about the Wes Hodges of it all, where he almost made a whole career as a prospect. I don't think he ever made it to the big leagues on one really good first half in the upper minors. It was a bad minor leagues in Cleveland then. And for the same reason, I wanted to see what Brennan would do over the course of a full year of data. Seeing this with Halpin, and then you get into the fact that he's looking like a potential elite defender in center field. Pete Crow Armstrong gets ranked a lot of places. And yes, I had Pete Crow Armstrong about 30 spots higher. But even in my write-up, I said that he was the poor man's PCA. PCA, I believe, was a top, if not a top 20, a top 15 prospect. So it says a lot. And Halpin's one of those guys that definitely, as I'm working on this list, when I'm finalizing, and again, I think I'm not going to really do a top 20 as much as I'm going to sit down and do tiers. I'm going to put all the players in tiers because I think that's a better representative for talent. But he's one of those guys who, if he's not in that third tier grouping, we've talked about how there's 4 guys in tier 1, and then tier 2 is about another 3 to 4 names, and then there's the next group, which is about 10 to 12. He is in that next grouping. So it'll be something fun to talk about. But I want to talk about something fun, because let's just get into this game. Let's talk about Cleveland has 11 hits. I know people are like, the lack of power. They have a home run and a double in this one. You look at the other side of things. Guess what? The Royals have a home run and a double as well. That's it. Why have they taken advantage of more? Well, Cleveland has no walks, and the Royals have 3. And those walks have directly led to 2 of the 4 runs. So before we again get focused on this idea of power, and good on Straw, just a stolen base as well. He might be a star of this one before it's all said and done. It's walking is important. This shouldn't be a revelation. Go watch the Moneyball movie. I mean, it makes walks a little too important, but yeah, this team just needs to walk more. It would help. It extends innings. Walks they make a pitcher throw extra pitches. They get into the pen earlier. This team doesn't walk enough. And yes, power would be great. Don't get me wrong. I still think Nolan Jones should be up and helping this team. If you listened to yesterday's show, I'm trying to remember if it was in the podcast part or the long stream part. But if you talk about the top 10 hitters on this team in runs created plus this year, Nolan Jones is among them. I know he's struggled in AAA. Good on Quan. But that is the first walk of the game for the Cleveland Guardians. That right there. I was kind of curious. I was hoping I could track down pop-up percentages. Cleveland, by the way, 30th in all base one hard hit percentage. That's right, worse than Detroit. Right now, you have Quan, as we previously said, with the first walk of the game. The first walk in the ninth. Oh, did Amed Rosario just strike out? Awesome. That's why he's in the 2-hole instead of Andres Jimenez. Thumbs up. And Eli Morgan coming in here in the ninth. Is what it is. In this game, Cleveland has... Let's just get into it. So Cleveland has 11 hits. Just 4 runs to show for it. They had the hit by pitch to Jose Ramirez, and then the walks. That's 13 opportunities. And then you have the errors, 14 opportunities. That should be 4.5 to 5 runs. They're at 4. In line. Closer to the 5 runs than the 4, but you take it. They're in line. The Royals on the other side have 4 hits. The 2 errors gives them 6 opportunities. And then I believe I said 3 walks, so that's 9 opportunities right there for them. That should be about 3. They have 4 to show. So they've been a little lucky. Cleveland's been in line. But that's part of the problem, right? Like Cleveland having had just the 1 walk. Like you expect to have a few in a game. They haven't had a few. They've had 1. If you want to count the hit batter, 2. The other side of things, of those 3 walks, I believe 1 set up the 2-run home run, was the base run, and the other was the tying run there in the 4th. And then they cashed in the error. Cleveland's getting this situation where Straw hits, steals a base, Quan walks, and then Amed Rosario swinging at a ball in the dirt. Can we just fix the lineup? Is that too much to ask? It is ridiculous that he is still hitting 2. Absolutely ridiculous. Your best hitter is hitting 6th. And if you want to say Jose is the best, fine. Then the guy who is 1B to 1A for Jose is hitting 6th in your lineup, who has also been clutch most of the year. I know last night he had his issue with runners in scoring position. Maybe put him in the 2-hole. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? McKenzie pitched well today, and it looks like it might go for naught. 5 2/3. Again, you'd like to see a few more strikeouts. 5 and 5 2/3. 2 walks, 3 hits, of course a home run, because that is his weakness. But again, that is something that this team would rather give up, is a home run than a walk. Unfortunately, he did walk 2. One of those came back to hurt him. That is a solid outing. Henches comes in, gets it done. Sandlin gets a run as well. That's the thing. Henches, you also had the error situation, so technically he didn't get it done with what happened when he came in. But at the same time, like I said, that balances. Naylor giveth, Naylor taketh away. We'll see what happens with Morgan. Yeah, it's frustrating. Who reached base twice? Well, Quan reached base 3 times. Jose reached base twice. It's kind of easy because nobody walked, right? Jimenez reached base twice, and Straw has reached base twice. Your 3 stars in this one. Well, when you go... I'm still tempted to give it to McKenzie because the 1 earned run... Morgan's getting ready to walk the opening batter, isn't he? As he's sitting here facing their number 2 hitter in Massey, who we talked about is actually been productive this year. No, he's not their 2-hitter. He is their... Why can I not see where he hits? He's their 6-hitter. There we go. Fly ball. We'll take it. Sorry about my frustrations bleeding over. But yeah, looking at this one, just talking about who are the stars, I'm giving it to Straw. 2 hits and a stolen base. I'm giving it to Jimenez. 2 hits, one of them being an extra base hit. And then it comes down to Kwan, who had 2 hits and a walk, or McKenzie, who had 2 earned runs, 3 total. And I'm going to give it to McKenzie over Kwan. Because the Kwan's biggest negative is he's got Rosario hitting behind him. So one of those hits was immediately a double play. And then the walk was immediately just a lost opportunity because you got a guy who swung at a ball in the dirt. Oof. 0-2 at least. Eaton had a nice swing on that one. We're going to end it here just because this isn't a live stream. It's not one of those things where I can... Here's what you're going to do. I'm going to continue. We're going to do our cut for the end of the podcast because I don't want this to run forever because then that's not how the network goes. So we're going to end the show with a projected 3 stars. I'm going to potentially let the video version run a little longer, so if you want to go jump and catch the rest on the video version, it's there. But as I end every show, go Guardians, go. Okay, so this is more the freewheeling part of this show where you're going to see my reactions because people seem to like that. We like to have the interaction. But I'm also going to be, trying to copy some things down because I got to work in the morning. But it's already 10 o'clock my time, and if this game goes into extras, I obviously can't cover the whole thing. But a 1-2 count, you got a rookie who's more of a defensive replacement type. I'm not super familiar with Luke Eaton. I will be honest. He's someone that I have not really scouted, followed, or seen. So I don't know what he is, and he has a single. So there's that. It was, end of the bat. I'm not going to crap on Eli Morgan for that. I like someone who got mad at me saying that the Guardians don't have that many hit into double plays. Only 1 out in this one. By the way, in terms of on-base percentage, I just looked it up to respond to the tweet that someone had because I am me and I need to be better about not responding, but I will. They are currently tied for 18th. We'll see, after this game, how much you can shift over the course of a game. It might go up because, again, 11 hits is a lot of hits. They've just been, unfortunately, really unproductive for those 11 hits. And it is just because it is hard. Oh, come on. You got to get the glove down. Luckily, they covered that up, but it was... Cleveland pitching is relatively easy to run on. Let's be honest, just looking through at their performance in most matchups, it certainly seems teams are not afraid to run on them at all. Freeman's got to get that, though. But yeah, it does seem like, as much as I complain about 99, let's be honest, this is not a great defensive team. Now, Drew Waters is a lot like Oscar Gonzalez, statistically through the minors. He's a guy I would recommend keeping it, well, I would have said keep it low and keep it out of the zone, but they got the pop-up, so by keeping it high. So what do I know? We will, like I said, for the show, I will take him through the end of the inning. I think what I talked about earlier in the show, and it just, there we go. Good on Morgan. I didn't have much faith in him, but he should prove me wrong. But, to sum it all up, I think a lot of my issue is right now, this team is the hitter profile that I don't like. This team is Amed Rosario. This team is Oscar Gonzalez in the big leagues, not the minors. It is Francisco Mejia. It is that type of hitter, right? As a team, there is no power. They don't walk, and it's all contact rate. And that doesn't work unless you have a secondary skill. And as a team, they don't have that secondary skill. And I guess that is kind of where I get so frustrated, because if you've listened to the show for 3 years, these are not the guys. That is not my profile. That is not the hitter profile that I like. I've always been lower on guys with that profile, and that's why I've been lower on the Freemans and Mejias. And we'll see if I end up being, wrong. But I think why I get so frustrated watching this offense is it is to a T that profile. And what I have seen historically with that profile is it is streaky. You're going to have great stretches. You're going to have terrible, because it is so much about the BABIP. Batting average of balls put in play. Are you going to get lucky? Are you going to get unlucky? Some of that it can be negated by quality contact, but this team is also seeming to not make quality contact at such a high rate right now. It is seeming to do a lot more pop-ups, a lot more. I mean, they're tied for fourth best, however you want to look at it, fourth highest soft hit percentage in baseball. They're just not making quality contact. Extra innings means I'm going to end this so I can upload it and do all the write-up and everything, because it's past 10 o'clock. I got work to do. I got to be up early to teach. I still got to, write up a description, do all that stuff. Not to complain. I understand this is a job many people would love to have. But, I went over. I gave an additional 10 minutes of content. How about we do this? I don't even have the chat here to be like, let's stick around, but I'm still arguing with myself. If people want to watch, they can keep watching. It is extras. Rosario does run well. You've got Jose, Naylor, and Oscar, which again, no Jimenez. It just, I'm yet to hear anyone defend having him hit where he hits. And there's the free base, because I don't want to face Jose, because Naylor is prone to double plays as well. He doesn't run very well, though you've got a righty on the mound, so that's good for Cleveland. And Oscar Gonzalez has not played well of late. You're kind of hoping, if you are Kansas City, that it's going to be a repeat of yesterday. this exact same situation. Intentional walk, double play. Deep breaths, deep breaths. Oh, 2. How's Hernandez pitched this year? Again, I have everything muted because I don't feel like getting sued by Major League Baseball. So I didn't get to look at his numbers. I feel like he has been inconsistent over his career, so I could be wrong in that. Wasn't he a starter for them before being moved to this role? He's a 571 FIP. Yeah, starter. 1 MLB option left. He has been really bad this year. Negative .3 WAR. Home run rate of nearly 1.5. A K rate barely over 5. His walk rate and his K rate are nearly equal. You have to take advantage of a bad pitcher on the mound. You have to. And we're talking, let's see, 85 innings. Well, okay, so I'm looking at his AAA data. Why would you put his AAA data second? Has he not pitched in the big leagues this year? So weird. No, yeah, 571 walk. No, I had the data right. Never mind. It's over 44 innings, 7 starts. He's been awful. You got to take advantage of it. Oh, and did he offer? Okay. We'll talk about it on tomorrow's show, but as a bonus, the Baltimore claim train continues. If you missed it, Anthony Castro is on his way to Baltimore. After Kirk McCarty, and was it maybe just Kirk McCarty? But yeah, we'll have to see how it goes. Weak foul ball, you get nothing, or foul ball, fly ball, and you get nothing for it. You got completely jammed. Good job, Oscar. Making me look dumb. I will take it every single day of the week. I will take it. And this is where he said, I'm happy to be wrong. I am happy that he goes out and gets that hit. Righty on righty. But again, he doesn't really have terrible splits. He's just the same guy no matter what. He had a big hit yesterday, and that's what you're kind of, again, you're hoping that he can be the high percentage outcome for the position. Oof, Jimenez swinging out of his feet. To be a consistent producer. But I'll take that. I'll also, part of me goes, thank goodness we were facing Carlos Hernandez, not the murderer's row of Seattle arms from yesterday. This is the difference between a good and bad team, right? Oh, Andres. They're swinging at a lot of high pitches. And it just makes me wonder if the book's out on that. Like, it seems that they are working the Guardians high, and I mean, is it productive? I don't even know if I can say it's productive or not productive in this one, just because of the fact of the matter is that, like, check swing. Boy, do I look bad right now with all of my Andres anger. Essentially a bunt. But, getting back to the original point of everything, and I just lost it. And I think with me having lost it, the Guardians having scored runs, with this being over 40 minutes now, we're going to call it a show. I want to thank everyone who watched, rate, and reviewed. Tell me if you want me to continue doing this. Do you want the continuation in the video form, or should I just cut it when I cut the show? I always rely on listener feedback to let me know. Do you like the bonus? Do you not like the bonus? I appreciate everything and everyone who is paying attention. I do appreciate and enjoy the fact that I look very dumb in this 10th inning, and I will always look dumb if it results in a Guardians win. Thank you all for watching. If you haven't subscribed, go click, please, and I'll do it again. Go Guardians, go.